let me just give you a little bit of an overview of what we're going to do in this class. So we're going to be able to make apps that you can actually use on your phone. But of course, apps can be very complicated to make. So we're going to start with some basic apps. And what we're going to be learning primarily is a little bit of two things. One is how to make a user interface, which you guys use all the time when you use apps. And we're also going to be learning to code, because the app is going to involve two things. The user putting their input in, and that's with the user interface, and then your code making the app work. So we're going to start with that in a minute. Looks like people are trying to settle into the meeting. Somebody just left. Hopefully they'll be back. Here she's back. Okay. Okay. So I guess we'll get started, and some people along the way may have to catch up. There'll be some time to do that. As I said, if you have any questions, you can always put them in the chat at any time, or feel free to turn your mic on and ask me a question. Okay, so let me take a look. I'm going to share my screen, and I'm going to just show you guys the platform that we're going to be using, which is called code.org. Code.org is a website that teaches many different aspects of computer science. It started out as a website for kids, but they have content that is available all the way up to college level. So we're going to be using the part of their website that is called App Lab, and it's going to allow us to create our apps and to save our work. That's why we want to make sure we have the account. Okay, let me share my screen, and if you have not already started an account, this will help you to figure out what you need to do. Okay, so let me share my screen, and I'm going to go to code.org. Let me know if you guys are seeing code.org now in our class. Somebody maybe could turn on a mic for a second and just let me know if you see that.
Yeah, we got you.
Okay, great. Thank you. All right, so it looks like at least some of the people who are here in the class started their accounts. That's great. Okay, so once you've started a code.org account, your screen may look a little different than mine. I'm set up as a teacher, but a lot of it will be similar. So if you look up in the upper right, you should see your name. Do you guys see your name where I'm seeing my name? And you should also see create. And anybody seeing that? You are. Great. Okay. So let's click on create. And you should see a drop-down menu that's going to give you a bunch of options. And we're going to App Lab. Okay, so this is going to be our workspace in code.org's App Lab. And you're going to be able to save your work, you're going to be able to share your work, and you're going to be able to look at your code. I'm going to switch gears here for a second and show you a little bit about what we are going to be making. This is part of a slideshow that I have, and you guys will have access to this, and you'll also have access to a Google Classroom. So I was talking about it. Here's our checklist. You're going to join the Google Classroom. Later I'll invite you to that. You're going to be on code.org. That shows you how to do it. And let me show you the projects we're going to work on in this class. So our big project that I hope we get around to completing is an app that is a game. So I built this one, and then you guys are going to build it. Let me show you that here for a second. And again, jump in with your mic at any time if you're having any problems. Okay, so let me click on it, and we'll see the app as it actually works. I actually have it on my phone, but we're going to look at it on the screen for now. Okay, so you guys may or may not be into playing games on phones. That's not what I'm really interested in, but building a game was a good way for me to use a bunch of different app making skills. So as I said, any app that you make is only going to be successful if you make a user interface that looks attractive and is easy to navigate and people can figure out what you're going to do. under the hood is all the code. So here's what our app looks like on the surface. I've created a graphic that you guys are going to have access to, and you're going to put that up on your home screen. You're going to have a button here. It's going to say Start Game. So you'll notice when I started the game, we have a clock counting down, we have an image that jumps around, and a score. I get a score if I shoot it. Every time I shoot it, you'll see the score is going up, and the counter is counting down.
Game over.
And then we have a screen that said game over and try again. Again, you might not be interested in playing a game like that, but to code that game, there's a lot going on. Let me show you the code. And again, if at any time you guys are hearing me talk and you're not seeing what I'm talking about, just jump on with the mic and let me know. All right, so when we build an app or two tonight, they're not going to be as complicated as this one. But hopefully we're going to get around to this one. And even if we don't finish it in our 4 sessions, we'll start to learn a bunch of new things in the process. So what you're seeing on the right here is my code that I did for this game. What's really nice about code.org is they put the code in these boxes that make it easier to read. But it's still really just JavaScript, which is one of the most popular coding languages. If I hit show text, it's going to show it without all of the colors, and it's going to show you just the JavaScript, which looks a little crazy, but we're gonna get to learn some of that. So let me show you around the code.org interface here and how it works for us. So if you notice, my cursor is in the upper left here now, and it's over this illustration of my app. So I have a button that says code, and right now I can see the code on the screen, and I have a button that says design. If I hit design, you'll notice the screen on the right changed. Take a look at that, because in a second you guys are going to be doing this. So if I hit code, I'm seeing all my code on the right, and if I hit design, I'm seeing other information here. Okay, watch what happens as I move over my fake app here. As I move over my app and I click on things, the information on the right is changing. What it's showing me is the ID information about all of these elements. Okay, so we may be getting ahead of ourselves a little bit, but I wanted to show you what we're aiming towards. All right, let me switch gears for a second, and I'm going to show you guys the app that we're going to make for our first app tonight. Okay, let me go back to our okay, so the first app we're going to make tonight is our Warmup app. It's got a lot less code, and it's a pretty simple app. It's kind of goofy, but the idea behind it is, all right, imagine that you can't talk for some reason, or you don't want to talk, and somebody is saying to you, you're in a good mood or in a bad mood. Very simple app. We're going to make an app that you can click on one or the other, and it's going to let them know you are happy or sad. Goofy app, I know, but it's going to teach us some things. So let me show you what it looks like on my screen, and then we are going to all go to our code.org accounts. All right, so here's my mood app. Are you happy or sad? I'm going to say I am happy right now, and I'm going to click here, and I get that goofy happy sound, a happy face, and another button. I get another chance. Are you happy or sad? This time I'm sad. I get a sad sound and another button. Let's look briefly at our code here, and then we're going to jump to our own accounts. We'll talk a little bit first to see what people thought of that, and we will start working on our first warm-up app. So you'll notice the code here, there's a lot less code on the right than there was in that other one. That's because there's a lot less functions going on. There's a lot less that the user can do. But this is a good start for us because we're still designing screens. So if I look here on my drop-down menu, I see that I said 4 screens, but I'm only using 3 right now. Here's screen 2, here's screen 3, and here's screen 4, which has nothing on it yet. Okay. So if I had a blank screen here and I wanted to add to it, all I do is drag stuff over like this. I drag a button here, and once I've done that, you'll notice on the right, this information corresponds now to my button. Let me show you that again. I'm going to drag that out, and you're going to be doing this in a minute. So all of these are my tools here. I have buttons, I have text input, I have labels. So I'm going to want a screen that has a button and a label. So watch, I'm going to drag the button down here, and once I do it, look what happens to my screen on the right. It's telling me all the information about that button. What information? The color. I could change the color, for example. It's telling me what kind of type is in it. It's telling me what the button says. I can change what the button says. It could say start if I wanted, and now the button says start. It's also giving me an ID, and the button ID is button number 4. Why is it number 4? Because I've used 3 buttons so far, and when I want to code the buttons to work, I have to remember what they were called. So if I go back to my screen 3 here and I hover over this button, click on it, it says button number 2. So that's what the IDs are about. Okay, I'm going to get out of the screen, I'm going to go to our class screen, and I'm going to see what you guys are thinking about this stuff so far. Okay, that was a lot of information to start, but what are people thinking? Seemed like it makes sense. Everybody, give me a thumbs up if you have your code.org account ready to go. Got a thumbs up, thumbs up. Great. And I'm hoping Kimberly, Susan, and Chiti also have their code.org accounts. If you don't, let me know or put it in the chat. But I'm assuming we all do now, so we're going to go ahead to our accounts. I mentioned in the email, it's particularly good if you have 2 computers to work on because you can do your coding on one and you can look at the class in the other. All right, I'm going to go back to share the screen and we're going to create a new project. So let me share my screen, and sorry, it's not cooperating at the moment. I don't know why it isn't. This happens sometimes. It's not allowing me. Here we go. Present screen. Okay. So I'm going to go to my code.org account, and I'm going to start a brand new project, and it's going to be that app. That's the Happy Sad app. So what do? I go to create, and this is what you guys should be doing. And you go to, whoops, let me let somebody in class here. Hi, welcome to class. We are about 20 minutes in, so I'll help you catch up in a bit. We're all just about to start working on our code.org accounts. So as I mentioned in the emails prior to class, you need to start an account. If you haven't yet, take a look at the, okay, great. Take a look at the chat and you'll see how to do that. So for the rest of the class, we're going to go to our account, we're going to go to create, and we're going to click on App Lab. That's going to bring us to a blank new project. And the next thing we're going to do is go to the upper left where it says Untitled Project. We're going to click there where it says Rename, and we're going to name it First App. And then hit save. And as you work on it, we'll keep saving. Okay, so as I mentioned before, you'll notice in the upper left you have the option to code or to design. You really can't do much coding until you've thought about what your screens are going to do. So the first thing we want is a home screen. Any home screen that we use on an app has to tell the user what the app is about. So we are going to switch to design mode. We're clicking on design, and we're going to drag a label out from our design toolbox here. It's the second one down from the left, and we're going to drag it to the upper center, and you'll notice there's sort of a triangle in the corner. You can pull that and it'll make it a bigger box. If you don't, you can fix that later. So you should now have a label, and if you look on the right, it says label number 1. We're going to need to remember that later. If we forget, we can always check. And we're going to change the text, which is in our second box here. We're going to say, My Mood App. Turn your mic on at any time if you need to ask me a question. So we have a label. I'm going to do all that again in case Anybody had trouble with that? And as you can see, if you want to undo something, you just drag it back into the toolbox. I drag my label out. I stretched it a bit to about the right size. I went over here to text, and I'm saying my mood app. Oops. Okay. I want that type to be centered. So I'm going to scroll down here a little bit.
Excuse me, it doesn't
Yes.
seem to be typing. Like, I just still have text in my box.
Okay. So are you clicked into the box that says text?
Yeah, I think it's still looking to move it around. How do I get it to stop moving?
Okay. So if you move your cursor over the window that says text and you click in it, make sure you're clicked in it.
With the hand?
Well, the hand should change to like a cursor once you're over the text thing.
Oh, no, I still have it loud. Let's see. Let me make the box a little bigger.
And don't worry, this happens.
Yeah, I'm not getting a cursor. I have the hand. Maybe I'll take it out and do it again. Wait.
Yeah, and then you should be able to move over here, click in the text box, and you should be able to start typing.
Okay.
Keep giving that a try.
I don't want to hold up the class.
Keep trying, and the rest of you guys, what I want you to do is scroll down and look at these options you have here. I'd like you to go to text alignment, and I want you to center the text. I want you to go to font size, and I want you to make that larger so it fits the window. And you may need to adjust the size of your box to keep that fitting. And I'd like you to change the color. So the color, you're going to click on that square for now. Later we're going to learn other ways to do color more precisely, and you're just going to drag around until you find a color you like. And you can drag any of these sliders, and that's going to give you a color. You click on it. Oh, and what I just did there was I did the wrong color. I did the border color. What I wanted actually was the font color. So I want the text color here. So I'm going to change that one. And I'm going to go back to this one. And I'm going to just change it back to white because I don't want that to be there. Okay. So right now you see I have my mood app. Mine happens to be in blue. Yours can be in whatever color you want it to be. And we're going to have two more things on this page. But let me take a look at the class and see how it's going for people. So I don't have text alignment as an option. So Kimberly, are you using code.org on a desktop computer, or are you using it on like an iPad or desktop? Okay, so it should be there. So if you click and scroll in that area, you'll see there's a lot of tools. They don't fit in the window all alone. So if you just hover over the window and then scroll, you should get that tool. Okay, the rest of you guys, what I'd like you to do is drag in a button. So there's a couple types of buttons. For right now, we are going to use one of these called a radio button. So we're going to have two of those. We're going to drag one in, and we're going to stretch the button a little bit so it's a little bigger and easier to use. And we're going to position it about the way I am, so we're going to be able to put text under it that says happy or sad. So we should have a label that says my mood, and we should have two radio buttons that we can stretch to the size we want. And then we're going to put two more pieces of text on the page. We're going to make two more labels, one under each button, and you can just drag those under. Oops, wrong tool. And as you might have guessed, one's going to say happy, one's going to say sad. So I'm going to go back. I'm going to click on my text. I'm going to go into the text window and say happy on one. And I'm going to click on the next one and I'm going to say sad. Okay, so just to review, we have 3 labels on the page. We have 2 radio buttons. One says happy and one says sad. We need one more thing. We need an image. So code.org has some images for us to use. Eventually we're going to use our own images, but for now we're going to use one of code.org's images. So I'm going to click over the image tool, drag it in the middle, and in 1 minute I'm going to stop and I'm going to check with everybody to see how everyone is doing. But for the moment I'm going to assume you guys are doing okay. I'll do that again. I'm going to drag the image tool into the middle, and when I do, I get all these options on the right for my image. You'll notice one of them about halfway down the page says choose. I'm going to click choose, and I'm going to go to icons here. I'm going to do all this again in a second. Okay, one more time. So I have my image tool, I drag it in. Now I have information about my image. I click on choose, icons, and now I'm looking for that face that doesn't say happy or sad. It's kind of in the middle, and that's going to be my starting image. If I drag on the corner, I can make that image bigger, and I want to change the color. So I go to icon color, and I'm going to change the color. All right, let me check in with you guys and see how that's going for everyone. So feel free to turn on your mics and feel free to add stuff in the chat. Not able to change color or insert radio buttons. Okay, so Kimberly, what's happening when you try? Are you using a mouse? And you can turn on your mic if you have one. Not able to change color. Okay, I can hear you now. Well, your mic was on, but I wasn't able to hear what you were saying there. So you should be able to drag those in. Anybody else have trouble dragging anything on to the page?
Yes, the text.
You're not able to drag any on?
Not yet. No.
Any other tools are able to drag on, like a label?
I got the image box in there, but now I'm trying to choose the like the face, and that's not seeming to work yet.
Okay, so let me go through those steps again. So.
Oh, I got it. Okay.
Got it? Great. Okay, and let me just do one of these radio buttons again. So you should be able to click right on it with the hand, drag it into the box. Now, of course, when you're dragging, you're keeping the button pushed down, right? And then you can drag the corner to make it a larger button. Okay. All right. Anybody got questions so far? Or how about somebody give me a progress report and let me know what's on your screen? Danielle, how's yours going?
The only issue I'm seeing to have is the size of the buttons. I can't make them bigger.
You can't make the buttons bigger. Okay, well, there's more than one way to do that. So we'll look at that in a second. Don't worry if you can't make the buttons bigger right now. So Kimberly is saying I can't get the color of the text to label to change. Right now, if for some reason you guys can't change the parameters on these, like the colors or something, don't worry about that too much. My main concern is that you're able to get the stuff onto your app screen. So I'm happy if you can do that. So let's make sure we all have an image, and we have 2 buttons, and we have a label under each button, and a label on the top. Okay. Kimberly, how is your screen? Do you have the image and the 3 labels and 2 buttons? Can't get an image. Do you have the image placeholder? Are you able to pull that out there? because if you can, that's good enough for now. We can stick with that. Okay, let me show you guys what we're going to do next. And as I said, don't worry if class number 1 feels like it gets ahead of you. We have lots of stuff we're going to have online for you guys to catch up. And, you know, we're going to take our time. Okay, so let me go back to my screen and I'll show you what we're going to do next. All right, the next thing we want to do is create our next screen. So we're going to go up here where it says screen, and we're going to scroll down to new screen. So our second screen is very similar to the first one. It's going to be the screen that says happy. So all we want to do is drag an image out there. So let's start by dragging the image out. Don't even worry about changing it yet. We're just putting the image placeholder. I'm going to make it pretty big because that's about the only thing on this screen. And to make this screen interactive, I want one more button. But this isn't a button about choosing. It's a button to just make an operation happen. So I'm going to choose the big button on the top, on the upper left there. So we're going to drag that in. Let me do all of that again. Okay, so I want an image in the middle. I grab my image tool. And if this feels like it's tough tonight, don't worry about it. Don't get frustrated. You're going to get all this stuff. We have an image in the middle. Good. And we're going to put a button down here. A big button. It's the one on the top. And we're going to put one more label on the top. And it's going to say happy. And we're going to drag pretty big so the text can be big. Go to the text box and we write happy. And if you've gotten that far already, you can do some other things. You can change the color of your text, you can center it, you can change the font if you wanted. You don't have to do it like mine, as long as you're able to use these elements here and change these parameters. So I am going to change the color of my text, but you can change it to whatever you want. Text color, I'm just going to make it something bright. I'll check in with you guys in a second to see how everybody's doing. So I'm going to make my button match the color of my label. So I do that by hovering over it, clicking over it, and now all of these parameters and properties relate to my button. I'm going to click on the orange there, and I'm going to make the button match my label. And I want the button to say something. So I'm going to say, I want the button is going to eventually get us to home, the home screen. So I'm going to write home on it. And now the button just says home. So I have a label on top that says happy. I have an image in the middle, and I have a big button on the bottom. Okay, we are ready to start trying to do some of the coding, but let me look back at the class and see what's going on. So Kimberly, has code.org started cooperating anymore at this point for you, or? Okay, I'm not sure if it's a type of device you might be using or if you're using a mouse, but by the way, everyone, we can, you and I can communicate in between classes by email, and we can figure out these tech issues that come up the first night. So if something seems like it's totally off base tonight, don't worry, we'll figure it out. I see somebody saying this isn't going to work. It will work, you're going to get it, but it might not happen tonight, so don't sweat it. Okay, let me go back to my screen, and I'm going to show you guys what we're going to do with the coding. And by the way, if you get utterly, lost tonight and you need to just watch for now, that's fine, because you'll have time to catch up and you'll have information to look at during the week that you can catch up with. Okay, so on the upper left, we have design or code. I'm going to switch screens to my first screen, screen 1, and I'm going to click on code. Okay. We have a lot of tools here, and we're not going to use all of these different tools on our first app. We're going to stay in what's called the UI controls, which you might have figured out stands for User Interface Controls. That's the yellow tab on the top. The control we're going to use the most is the onEvent block. So we're going to drag one of those out. Now, the nice thing about JavaScript is, unlike some other coding languages, to some extent it reads like English. So our JavaScript here says on the event that the ID of something is clicked, we're going to do something. Okay, and let me just, I'm just checking here. I got an email from one of our classmates during class, and I want to see if I can. All right, that looks right. Okay, Kimberly just sent me a picture of hers, and it looks right. You're on target with this. Don't worry. Let me do that again. So we're going to drag an onEvent block out. And by the way, guys, for some of you tonight, it'll feel like this is very fast. Some will feel like it's very slow. We're all going to get around the same space eventually. We have drop-down menus here. So I want to pick from the drop-down menu radio button number 1. This is where our IDs are really important. If you were writing all the code yourself, you would have had to come up with that ID information yourself, and you could change it if you want. You could call it anything you want as long as you use the same terminology. So on the event that the radio button 1 is clicked, we want something to happen. What do we want to happen? We want to set our screen to a different screen. So we're going to go in our user interface tools here. We're going to scroll down and we're going to grab a set screen. And guess what? Once again, we have an ID that we have to think about. Set screen to screen 2. Okay, so if this is working, when I hit run, I should now have a My Mood app, and if I click on happy, it takes me to page 2. So that's what I want all of you guys to do right now. I'm going to do that whole thing again. And for a second, I'm going to look back at our class, see if anybody's got anything in the text to tell me. Okay, so I'm on screen 1. I'm in the coding part of our toolbox. I grab an onEvent block, and I say on the event that radio button 1 is clicked, I am going to set my screen to screen 2. Okay, any problems? Anybody getting that to work yet? You got it to work, great. So Danielle, if you already have it working, you might want to, well, actually I don't want to get ahead of us here, but let me show you one other thing you can do. We're going to have a happy sound that's going to go with that, so I'm going to add another instruction to my onEvent here. And I'm going to go into my tools here, and I'm going to look for play sound, and I'm going to drag that and connect it underneath, but it has to be in the function, in the green there. And when I go to the drop down in sounds, it also allows me to choose a sound, and I'm going to just pick a sound that sounds happy. So there's my happy sound. I'll do that again. I'm adding another element to our function here, which is to play a sound. I grab that from here, I attach it to where it says set screen, and I'm going to go to the drop down menu to choose. I can pick any one of these I want. I'm putting that one in. And if I run my app now, if I click happy, great, I get the happy sound and I go to screen 2. All right. So you may have guessed what we need to do next is, okay, some of these is working. What we need to do next is create somewhere to go when we hit the other button. So what do we need to do? First, we need to have a screen to go to. So I'm going to click on design. And if you're not with me now, don't worry. You don't have to go ahead. I just know some people may be getting ahead, so I'm going to go back and forth. And for those of you who are ready, you're going to go to design, new screen, and you're now going to create the screen that is very much like screen number 2, except it's going to be the sad screen. So create a screen just like screen number 2, an image, a button, and a label, but it's going to say sad, then there'll be an image, and then there'll be a button. Okay, so feel free to let me know where you're at in the chat or with the mic if you're having any problems. And I think we're doing okay, so I'm going to get back to what I was doing there, and I'm going to create that page for myself. So I'm going to pull an image into the middle. I'm going to put a label on top. I'm going to make the label big for the space, and I'm going to put a button in the bottom. And I want these to be sad, so I'm going to go with the traditional blue for sad. And I'm going to write sad here. And I'm going, yes. Somebody have a question? Anyone? Nope? Okay. Now, I noticed that my text did not change when I expected it to change. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to refresh my page. And hopefully it didn't lose all my work, but let's see. It didn't lose all my work. Let me change the text again. Now it's working. So by the way, this may have been what happened to some of you before. Sometimes there's just a lag in the website, so you're changing your information over here. You don't see it changing on the app, but if you refresh the page, it will change. Your app is being auto-saved every few seconds, so that's good news, but you want to make sure that you always do what we did first, which was to save it right off the bat by giving it a name. Okay, so I'm going to center my text, and I'm going to color it blue for sad, but you could color it whatever color you want. And I'm going to make my button match that, so I'm going to hover over it, and I'm going to find blue in here, blue button, and I'm going to say home on this button again, because this button is also going to take us home when we code it to the home page. If you haven't done it, yes? Question? Nope. Anybody? Okay. So I want that sad to be in the middle, and I want it to be bigger text. So I'm going to change it to font size. Good. Now we haven't changed our images. So on screen 2 and 3, I want the sad image here. So I'm going to click on image. I'm going to click on choose. And I'm going to go to icons. And I'm going to put the sad face. And by the way, I can change the color of the icon, so I'm going to change that to blue as well. So now I have a page where everything is blue, a blue sad icon, a blue sad label, and a button that says home that's also blue. I'm going back to screen 2, and I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to take an image here. I'm going to give it the happy image from the icons. We're going to review all this in a minute, so don't worry if we're going too fast. And I'll send you guys assignments during the week too with instructions. So I'm hoping you guys now have at least 2 screens. One screen looks like this that says My Mood, Happy Sad. a second screen that says happy with a button, and a third screen that says sad with a button. I'm going to change the color of my text here to match the text on top. A little bit anyway. Okay, so let me see how people are doing. We have about 15 minutes, by the way, but you know, we've covered a lot of ground, so it looks like we lost a person or two along the way. Maybe people were getting busy or something, but don't worry, you're going to have a chance during the week to get back on track with this stuff if it's going too fast. Any questions? Okay, so in that case, what we want to do is we want to code our other button. So we're going to go to code, and we want our radio button number 2 to go to the sad page, right? So I'm going to pull the on event block out. I'm going to say on the event that radio button number, in my case it's 3, is clicked. I'm going to set the screen to screen 3, and I'm going to play a sad sound. Okay. So I'm going to play the sad sound, and I'm gonna pull in a sound here. And feel free to ask questions at any time. And I'm going to look for a sad sound. And then we're almost done with this app. We have one other thing we have to do. All right. I'm just going to put a random sound in here for a second. And I'm going to run this to see if it works. Good. Hit reset. Okay, I didn't hear my sound there. Oh, there we go. Let's see. Try it again. Good, I'm hearing people's sounds. That's great. Looks like it's working. Good, okay. So both of my buttons are working. Now you might notice you have one other thing to do. You need to get both of those home buttons to get you back home. So you have a home button on page 2 and you have a home button on screen 3. Both of those are going to need to be coded to get you back to screen 1. So based on what we learned so far, you should be able to do that. And each time you do it, I would like you guys to associate a sound with the home button. So I'm going to do that right now. I'm going to go to my screen 2. And I'm going to click on code. So I need another on event. On the event, that button 2 is clicked. I'm going to set screen to screen 1, and I'm going to play sound. In this case, I think I'm going to use just a sound that sounds like a button being clicked. So I'm going to find that sound. And they have one here that says app. It's app sounds. So let's see. I just got an app button there. And again, I'm going to test it, see if it works. So I'm hitting run. Go to happy. Click home, and it gets me back home. So I need to do the same thing with page 3, button 3. Screen 3, button 3. So we're going to code that button. On the event that button number 3. And by the way, everyone, you know, eventually we'll be back in the library. When we're back in the library, it's much easier to do these kind of classes because if you're having a problem, we can, you know, look at it together right there and then and fix the problem. But we will make this work this way too. Okay, so when button 3 is clicked, I want to do the same thing. You'll notice we're doing really repetitive stuff here, which happens a lot in coding, but we're also doing it deliberately so that we just figure out how to do this stuff. So, and I want another sound, and then this app is done. And I'm going to show you guys how to save it and how to share it. Play sound. And I'm going to go to App Sounds. Okay, I'm going to run my app and see if the whole app is working. So my mood, I'm going to try happy. And I didn't hear the sound. Let me reset it. Run. Here we go. Back home. Sad. Oh, and I didn't hear the sad. Oh, I did hear the sad sound. Okay, so my app is done and it's working. Let me take a look at you guys while you're working there and see how everybody's doing. Any questions? Any feedback? How's everything going for you guys? Okay, so how about Pat? How far are you on yours?
I'm having a problem putting the text in, and I got the images onto the 3 screens, but I'm not. The coding's all off.
The coding is all off? Okay, don't worry. I'm gonna make the code available to you guys so you'll be able to see my code. And in fact, let me right now show some of you guys how you would do that next step. So I'm going to share my code and my app with you guys just as you could share it with somebody else. So right here you see the share button. So my app is done, so you would hit share and it gives you some options now. One option is to send it to a phone, and if you put a phone number in, you can actually have it run as an app on your phone. But for our purposes right now, I'm going to just copy this and I'm going to put it in the chat, and so it's there that people can see it, and I'll also email it to you guys and you'll be able to see that code. And you can do the same for me. So if you share your project, even if you're having problems with it, I'll be able to look at the code. Okay, so there's mine. That's my app right there in the chat, and you'll be able to use that as a reference. I'll also email it to you guys. And I'd like you guys during the week to email me your progress with any apps you work on. Okay, so we're, believe it or not, it's 7:23 already. So why don't we all take a break for a second and let's open up mics, see how people are doing, what you think of it, if you're having trouble, and then I'll give you guys a kind of heads up on what we're going to do next and how we'll stay in touch and all that. So Robert, I see your hand is up, but I think your mic is off. Your mic is off. Can you text anything? Okay, so we could see you twice, but we can't hear you at all. We'll figure this out. Don't worry. Robert's been in our other classes. He was in our robotics class, and he's proof, and so is Pat, that this will actually work. You guys can make it through the class despite all our techno glitches. Okay, so let me tell you what we're going to do for next time. Let me just show you something on our screen here again, and that is our Google Classroom. So I hope you guys are seeing that now. Our Google Classroom is going to have a lot of stuff in here. It has our big final project that hopefully we're going to get to. And it's also got a slideshow that you'll be able to see. And I'm going to give you guys step-by-step info about how to build the apps. So all of that's going to be available during the week. And I can also send you the code of the apps that I make. So after class, I'm going to invite you all to the Google Classroom. I think you may need a Gmail to access it. If for some reason you can't, I'll get you the information another way. Okay, so what else was I going to tell you? Let me show you one other thing. We're going to do another app next week that or actually I'm going to give you guys this app as an option to work on during the week, and I'll give you the step-by-step. It's pretty similar. So let me just take a look at that app for a second, and then we'll all reconvene here, and we can talk about what we're going to do next. Okay, so did anybody want to tell me something, or no? Okay, I heard a mic there for a second. So let me just show you around my account here a little bit now again, because now you guys have these accounts. So you've named your app, which you do that by going to rename, and it saves automatically. I'm just going to rename it there for a second. And now if I go under here to my name, I see projects. And your app will be there in your projects. You'll have a whole list of projects here. So you can see a lot of the projects that I have made going on here. And just looking for the next project that we're going to do. Okay, so here's another app. It's a simple app. This is the one you guys are going to get for homework during the week, and I'll give you a walkthrough of it. So let's look at it for a second. I know it's almost time for us to leave, but I'll just give you an overview of it. So here's what I imagined for this app. Okay, you guys get a brand new neighbor next door. They moved from somewhere far away. They've never lived in Pearl River, and you want to give them a gift. So you figure out you're going to make a simple app for them, and you happen to know that half the family is vegetarian and half the family are meat eaters. So you're going to make an app that lets them know about some restaurants in town that are for meat eaters or vegetarians. So here's my app. Let me show you. I'm going to run the app. The Pearl River Find Your Food app. I have a label, I have an image, and I have a button that says click here. When I click here,
Hello neighbors.
hello neighbors. You have a robotic guy saying hello neighbors. So the button triggered a new screen and a sound. What do I have on this page? I have 1, 2, 3 labels. I have 2 radio buttons and 2 images. If my neighbor gets the app and is a meat eater, they click here. And they hear a lion's roar, and they get a page that's got an image of an animal's foot, and they get 2 names of restaurants in town that might serve meat. They get a button to get back home. They use it again, and somebody
Hello,
else
neighbors.
in the family clicks vegetarian, and they get to a page that's all green, and it lists a couple of restaurants, Ichiban or Aquaterra, and it has a button. For extra credit, it does one other thing. I'm going to show you what that is. So what if my neighbor
Hello, neighbors.
says, I don't know where that restaurant is? Well, if they click on it, it will take them to Gentle Giant's menu. Okay, so now we have something that's getting a little bit more like a real app. It's solving a real problem, and it's helping somebody out in a way, and it's also very interactive, and it could be used on their phone, and it would get them to the menus of those restaurants. But there's still not a ton of code, and it's mostly the code you guys already know. If you look over here, it kind of looks like a lot of code, but it's all the same stuff. On event, change the screen, play sound. We have one new one, which is on the event that somebody clicks something, send them to a website. Okay, so I'm going to share that with you guys probably tomorrow. I'm going to share the link to our Google Classroom and to a slideshow. And I'm going to ask you guys basically to try to recreate that app that I'm showing you there. And also to share with me any work you already did. So you saw the share button, right? You would go to share, you would click your link there and send it to me. You can also try, when your app is done, sharing it to your phone. Okay, any questions, anyone? All right, so obviously we've all been in touch by email, so we'll stay in touch by email. And tomorrow you're going to get email from me that's going to sort of recap what our next assignment is, and it'll have links to step-by-step process of that. And it's fine for you to just sort of copy my code for now, and then by next week I'm going to say to you guys when we start class, here's my idea for an app, let's see you build it. And it's going to be based very much on what we've done so far. But eventually we're going to get to more and more complicated stuff, like the game app that you saw that we started with. Pretty complicated, but we're going to get there. Okay.